G'day everyone, just going ahead through this meeting, what is it, the 8th of January, Rosehill. The weather's a bit crazy, so they've upgraded the track from an 8 to a 6 this morning, but there is rain around and there's rain predicted tomorrow, setting up for a 6 at best, so something sort of 6 between 6 and 8, something like that. The rail does go back to the true tomorrow. Usually it's rails in the run, but you can get off in the straight ideally, so you don't want to be hard fence in the straight. 4-5 off, something like that. So I think you want to. It's very hard to come from back on wide at Rosehill, so it's probably an advantage to save ground in run and then get to the middle. Sort of just off speed with covers fine too, but you just don't want to be too far back and circling the field. But it is a little bit difficult. Obviously, I'll go through. I've had a look at scratchings now, and there's going to be more. A lot of dual acceptors, a lot of horses that are accepted in Gold Coast and Sydney. You've got horses accepting Friday night, Saturday. So I've had a good look at tonight and the ones that should come out for tomorrow. But no surprise if there's more by tomorrow. Anyhow, so all right, let's have a look. First race is the Highway Handicap 1200 metres. I thought I'd finally found a good one thing here, and unfortunately they've scratched Midsummer Rain, I assume due to the gate. The speed of the race is, it will be interesting. There's a couple of emergencies. They should get runs anyway. But it doesn't look clear cut. You've got horses drawn wide, unpredicted Evanora, and then the three drawn, the three inside gates that'll kick up. I'm sure they'll run along a little bit, but I've seen highways with more speed. The race is a bit of a nightmare for mine. I thought, the interesting horse is this horse, Step Lee. Turn it down my speakers here. So certainly is an interesting horse, Step Lee. First up, got back and cut up the inside, which was the worst part of the track. Made a lot of ground there, ran the fast 800 of the day. It's run the fastest 800 of the day every time it's ever been in a race, which is interesting. And the fastest last 8.642 last start. The problem with the horse is that every start, you'll see straight away. Here we go. Step slow, and not only that, he struggles to muster. Here they don't really pressure him as much, but you can see he's sort of back here, second or third last. I will show you his run. So they went 1,000,000 miles an hour in this race, so he's entitled to run on, but still out to the outside here, same colours as Art Lee carried. Gets to the middle, which was probably the right part of the track too here, and runs away from them. So his last bit of the race is really good, and as said, he sort of ran the fastest last 8.64 there, and second fastest last 200 of the day. Here he comes to Muswellbrook.
The afternoon breeze has sprung up here at Muswellbrook. Apologies if the Linus is bench. Bad boy minus set. Event here at Red Light Sign. Harry and the Duke and
out the back, and again, look, he sort of gets up him and he can't muster. This is over 1,500 metres, so he resumes over 1,200. We've got no trial to look at recently. You'd expect that his racing pattern's going to be identical. He's not going to be able to keep up. This race here, they didn't go quick at all. They went slow and came home, reasonably strongly for the class and distance, and that's him down the outside again, just rounding them up. So not many horses can continue to do this, overcome an ordinary racing pattern and outclass their runners. Obviously, when he gets the speed to suit, he's going to probably still be very hard to beat no matter what happens, but he's overcome slow tempo with 61 kilos last start in a benchmark 58. Up to a class 3 here, 1,200 metres, which he hasn't won at yet. He's won at 13 and 15, and an inside draw, which is not great for a horse. Sorry, he's drawn out, pardon me. He's going to get back and wide, and that's not easy to do. He's $3.10. He's a horse you probably wouldn't want to jump out of a tree to lay, but where he's going to be in the run, he's going to need to be a lot better than them. The thing about the sort of speed and tempo of the race, there's a good chance there'll be a 3 and 4 wide line here, I would imagine. So that probably plays into the hands of him a little bit. It's just not easy to come to where he's going to be and win the race. Trying to find horses with any conviction in the race is very difficult for me. I thought this horse here, Zoo Station, was interesting. It did win first up 1400 around this circuit, but on a 6, but which is probably a little bit better than a 6 that day.
Sunrise. It's Monterey's off the back of the 8.
So this is a York, not a horse that really looks like a 1200 metre horse. So he takes forever to do a lot here, and he's just stronger than them late, but he sort of maintains that sprint pretty one-paced. 1200 certainly short of his best, but he has trialled up quite positively.
Very wide there, just inside of
this is him coming through in the winkers.
Lockdown gamble.
So he's trialled up quite positively. This horse came out and won out of that trial. That horse didn't. He's only ever had 2 starts short of 1200 metres before and hasn't won. Then got to 14 a mile and back to 14 there first up off a 145-day break. Then stretched out to 1800. So 1200 is going to be short of his best, but does find a race that's quite suitable class-wise, and resumes with the winkers on, so you'd expect that they're ready to go here, and an inside draw too. So, and wet track obviously not a big worry, has run quite solidly on soft tracks a couple of times, and it'd probably help over the 1200 metres. So it was probably the horse that I thought was most interesting in the race. Cat Gully Red's another horse that I was really interested in, but just 25 starts on good tracks, 3 wins, 6 placings, and 9 on slow or worse for 3 placings. It's obviously not a horse that appreciates the soft ground, but is very well set up physically, set up wise, and I thought its run last start was better than it looked on paper. And I thought they were the only 2 horses I was really interested in the whole race. I could find negatives for just about every other horse. Dearissima could certainly reproduce its run 2 starts back at Wyong. Whether it was flattered or not there is a bit iffy as well, and it looks like it likes dry, and it's going to be in a similar spot to Stepley. So it's not the sort of horse I really want to find to out sprint Stepley. I want to find someone that's going to be in front of it and often gone, and Stepley's chasing. So I can't really find that horse here. All the on paces look a little bit weak to me. Maybe Golden Point's not bad set up, as in it's really hard fit from a stable that's going quite well and could probably the stable that doesn't bring him to town that often either, and the horse is going well, but it's back in distance here and can probably it's back in distance last start and ran well. I think Zoo Station's probably the most interesting horse around the $16 mark in a tough highway. Stepley the best horse potentially, just that horrible early racing pattern and not taking short odds first up, especially without seeing a trial. Spent too much time on that race. Race 2, Dynamic Impact for me here is the horse that stands out as the horse that brings form to this race that nothing else brings. It comes out of the Kerwin's Lane race, the wheelhouse race, where they went really slow and zipped home. This horse was, I think, a mile query, and interesting to say they put in an 1800 up on the Gold Coast and a 1500 here. Certainly think that the 1500 here is far more suitable than the 1800 there. Just wish it could race on pace. I see back in its former life, like in maidens and things, it did show a bit of speed. It's got the setup to kick forward here because there is no speed in the race, and that's the one thing I'm worried about. Caesar's Palace rolls forward, Fairland rolls forward. I think Sword Point probably comes out. I don't know if it's out yet. No, it is scratched, so I can pull it out. But or is it not scratched? Sorry. Well, we should check that. Regardless, it's not a fast horse, so there's not a great deal of speed. Aslav wants to hold a spot 1A. I'll probably try and hold up on the inside as well. But it brings the form that nothing else brings, and it's got the setup mile back to 1500, which is its best chance of running the trip. Caesar's Palace sort of dominated, led that, sat outside that Nothing Sweat About Me in that horrible race, and sort of kicked on, and it's 850 whatever. Overlord's interesting, it's certainly rising in distance quickly. It was a good win at Gosford last start in a maiden, but did sort of overcome a few things there, and he's on the up, so it's a dangerous horse. 1A, as sort of said, is going to get every chance, but I don't think it's a really classy type near this Fjordland. Aslab the same. They're all pretty average sort of horses for mine, and I think Dynamic Impact is not much better than them, but it is better than them, and it just needs to get that run, and Overlord's the one that is very scary, and I thought it'd be a lot shorter than 850 Overlord. I wouldn't be surprised to see it run well again in this race, and certainly one that handles the wet no issue. So a tricky race 2, but Dynamic Impact, the one to beat from Overlord. Race 3. And again, I was surprised that they put Fashion Hill in this race instead of the later race with the senior jockey on. Does look to probably get the front. I'm assuming that they'll bluff She's All In from the wider draw out of it. If not, She's All In will lead, and it's not much shot. Fashion Hill could easily drop one behind them. Bellaspoir could go forward, sit outside leader, and run cover for Fashion Hill. Either way, it gets the right run again. Certainly did peak the other day in a perfect race where it controlled the tempo. $3 is certainly short enough. I think the absolute query runner of the meeting, and I said this when it was in the other day, I think it was in a Thursday race at Warwick Farm. It's been scratched twice, from a Tuesday on the 14th of last month, and then again on the 30th of December. It's trialled twice, pardon me, and I'm going well, and was scratched on Boxing Day. Its trials have been really good. Certainly very soft,
is right.
normal wallet trials,
We danced.
but has shown a bit of speed, which I like.
Well with it,
And I would show the replay from New Zealand, but it's a bit of a punish on the website that I've been finding from. It keeps freezing. This is it back here, and we danced. If you get a look at the replay of the New Zealand Group 1 that it was in last start over a mile, it sort of ran up to them like it was going to be winning, and then for whatever reason, whether it was the wet track, the mile, or the class, or what, it just sort of got lost. It lost its action when it was coming through them. It was a fast run mile for a Group 1. Is any other horse in this race capable of doing anything like that? I highly doubt it. And I would assume that And We Dance is a very interesting runner. How do you treat it from this stable? It's just a nightmare. Is this grand final? Is it a tune-up? I don't know, but just on class alone, this horse is very, very interesting and very scary. 53 kilos, probably a rider you don't want to find if you want to bet a horse confidently. But I would imagine she sort of sells fourth in this race and runs very positively from that position. The rest are very sort of one-paced or found their level from mine, so this horse is very scary down on the limit. And Fashion Hill's obviously the one that's very well set up in the weights. I know claiming here is probably smart, especially a horse that sort of rolls forward, and I can see it sort of getting near the front, and We Danced, whether it's ready or not, will prove whether it's the winner here or not. But I'm a little bit surprised it's around $5. It might be shorter now, sorry, with the scratchings. Let me update this. I'll talk about that before I can. Interesting. No prices coming through. Race 4, the Midway. I just spent quite a bit of time on this race and nearly drove myself insane. I'm not going to spend too much time on it because I don't think it's worthy of it. Holy Rain certainly ran first up nicely, got a long way out of its ground and ran on quite well, but it was a fast run race and was suited. It was a pretty weird race. The draw is certainly a positive, can settle closer, especially over the 1400. Very concerned about wet track though. It's got very, very steady form on anything rain affected. 440 and We Dance, and those scratchings out there. So 270 is short enough. Fashion Hill 440 and We Dance, I think, is a bit of value if it's ready to go. Holy Rain, so it's had 20 for 20 starts, good tracks, 5 wins, 5 placings, 10 starts on wet tracks for a win and 4 placings. So it's not disgraceful, but sort of jumping in distance, I'd probably want it to be dry, ideally, for this horse. I have been waiting for Americana Magic to go around, and I thought 1400 is probably suitable. It's a horse I think can race closer to the speed over that sort of distance and run well, but it's had 9 starts on anything rain affected and got a horrible record as well. Went back through, and its wet form, even well established into its preparation when it's fit, is very ordinary. So for whatever reason, this horse certainly prefers a dry track and probably won't get that as well. Looking at the race, it's very difficult. Nick Tock probably leads for a fair distance. Probably needs to be left alone, sort of 2-length gap behind it to be able to maintain that to the line, similar to the last start when it was closely beaten, but I don't think, 2 starts back when it was closely beaten around this track, but I can't back it with any confidence whatsoever. I tried to find Savvy Crown. I know it's going to be out the back, but I thought it's a pretty classy horse. Resuming, maybe they ride it forward over this sort of distance and it can out-tough them, but its trials have been pretty average, really. It's just been a little bit weak in one pace late, so it's a difficult horse to come into as well. Just a really tough race for mine, and I'd rather leave it alone. Metro Legends the favourite, first up, crossover noseband gelded. Didn't think it was trialling extraordinarily well and just put that sort of favouritism down to James McDonald for what it's worth. HC Duchess was the other one I kind of tried to look for. Drew a nice gate up in distance, thought it might be better suited. It's another horse that just doesn't have a killer blow. Race 5. Another race with little to no speed, so Paper Warrior is certainly not a given leader. Maybe Darleb Rosford, Yee first up, King's Air, what's it called? King's Air. And I'm surprised by no leader here. Even I think Lakeen's a big chance of rolling forward over the 1400. So the map's all important, very difficult. Yee's trialled up really well, I thought, and its record's good. Just where it gets to in the run's really important. I think Lakeen's a much better horse on the dry. Back to 1400's a question mark, and the rider also a question mark. Tim Clark's on it now. Hang on, what have I got? Rider question mark. Maybe there's a change in rider. Not sure what's happened there. There's been so many changes lately with this COVID and everyone having issues. Maybe Chad Schofield was on it. Anyhow. Almahaha needs dry, should get the perfect run, can improve, but needs the dry the better. Darleb certainly suited back to 1400, going really well. Where does it get to from the gate? I'm not sure. Opacity 156 days with the blinkers off. Trialled up quite well in the second trial. They banged it out of the gates, which I think's to the line, which I think's a real positive for this stable. Shows they're normally trying to be ready to go first up. It's drawn nicely and probably runs better than $13. It suggests it will. Wairiri Falls has trialled really well twice and looks to run well. It does need dry is better for it, and it draws a softer gate. King's Air 49 days between runs, tongue tie on, trialled okay, form okay, and I think it needs dry too. Could race more forward potentially. So it's just a really tough race. Paper Warriors first up run was really one pace as well, so you'd think they'd want to be racing more forward. Really tricky race from a betting perspective. Thought that King's Air was short at $3.90. The one horse I thought was a little bit of value was Opacity, but it's just a really dicey race where there's a lot of ways things could unfold. So first up you got 4 first up horses or 4 horses resuming from 49 days or more, and a few Waller horses off soft trials. You got O'Shea's off a trial with a bit of intent, but the blinkers off. So just a lot of queries in race 5, even though it's a small field. Race 6. I thought this was probably the horse that was the biggest risk of the day from short odds, and this is Rule of Law. It got the lead quite cheaply there last start at Warwick Farm, and whilst I see they put the earmuffs on Miss Baltimore, which may stop it pushing forward, I would be very surprised if it crosses Gay's horse. Twilight Affair, it's a pretty fast horse, and I'd be surprised if they let it cross it. I'd be surprised if it wasn't told to be ridden urgently. Never Second did lead last start at Gosford, but I'd expect it to sort of get crossed by those two from out wide and take the sit. And I'm not sure where Miss Baltimore ends up. Either way, or either pushes forward, which is bad for Rule of Law, I think, or sort of can't go as quick early with the earmuffs, and then it may be in a bit of trouble. I think Miracle Day's in tonight, which is interesting, but a horse that I'm probably happy if it's out of the race when I sort of run through what I think about the race. It's a bit of a fly in the ointment horse, so I'm happy if it's gone. I thought the horse that could run really well here is Estero. I really liked its trials before its first up run, and I thought that 1100 metre race at Warwick Farm, even though it was a Wednesday race, was going to be unsuitable because of the way the race was going to be run. The favourite here is obviously the same horse. So this replays serves two purposes. Rule of law, see, it's ridden quite hard here, I think, to hold a position, and these are not fast horses. This is a 1400 metre leader. Estiro's here is the horse I want to point out. Pretty negative rider on it, and I think it just went around as a bit of a barrier trial here, so it ends up they all go past it. Doesn't get a bad run in the race, but they've just absolutely walked and they rip home, and the inside was good. So it's out in the worst part of the track. They're sprinting up hard. It's had to come widest. The leader's done the exact opposite, led, controlled, and dashed home in the best part of the track. And I just like Estiro's last 150 sort of metres here. Really happy it run fourth. So, and it probably peaked on its front there a little bit. Draws inside here. I think there's a possibility though they could go quite quick. Its wet form's really good. It's had 3 starts on heavy tracks, 2 wins, even though one of them wasn't that heavy. Hang on, the Canberra race was heavy, and that was a maiden over 1300. Maybe still a little bit short. I wish it was 12, probably not 11. But again, if it's a little bit rain affected here and they go quick, I think it can run well. I'm wary of Gay's horse. I think it's a nice horse. I know it comes out of a maiden, but with 52.5 on its back, if it gets to the front, it could run a race. The rider scares the pants off me, but you're sort of getting $8 or something like that. It's acceptable. And I think Never Second can do nothing but run well as well. A little bit surprised it's not a little bit shorter in the market. So it's a bit of a nightmare. Three good chances, I think. Estiro, the clear value around the $12 mark. Pardon me. Never Second around the $5.50, $6 mark, and Twilight Affair around the $7.50, $8 mark. You've got Rule of Law 280. I couldn't touch that. I think it should be closer to $5. And I probably couldn't take $5 personally, but I think that's probably what price it should be. Race 7, another race where at least we get a horse that looks well set up here, and that's Canasta. First time it comes here on the backup. I see it's in an 1800 and a 1500, but they kept it for the 1500. I think that was smart. It's a race where it looks to dictate from the front quite clearly, which again is important to this horse. The horse that looks to get on pace with it is the stablemate, unlikely to attack it. And the horses behind, not super quick. There's nothing there that really challenges these two. The other important thing to note, I think, is the senior jockey going back aboard, and a rider that's won on him as well. Obviously doesn't win out of turn, but I think everything is in line for this horse today. So Canasta, very hard to beat. Very one-paced horses behind. I think that's the reason why he's the most advantaged horse in the race. The scary horse is the horse that I kind of got a spruik on. This horse, Nitride, down the bottom, going very well with wide draws and lots of things against it. 1500's as far as it wants, I think, but I'm not going to let this horse beat me around the 20-1 mark from inside draw. Finally gets a gate, handles all ground, and certainly should run to its best. It's hard fit and should have no excuses tomorrow. It's just a matter of whether it can finish off over the 1500, and if Canasta's not off and gone. Love Planet's the other one well in the betting. Thought it was pretty average first up, even though it was a slow tempo. Quickly to 1500. This stable again just drives you insane, but not a horse that I could take 270 about, even though it looks like it's going to get the right run. It's just not a closer, and I'm not sure even who's going to be riding him. Probably James McDonald, I'm not sure. Is he even riding? What's going on here? Bowman's aboard. I don't know whether they've been stood down for tomorrow or not. But I would assume James McDonald gets on it. So it'll probably shorten up, and I can't find it in that race. Just that everything lines up for Canasta tomorrow. If it doesn't win, I can't see it winning again anytime soon. January Cup's a bit of a nightmare. The Lord Ardmore, which I thought was clearly the best horse, set up and hard to beat from the outside draw, comes out of the race. From a pace perspective, again, we've got a myriad of possibilities, but it looks like Fun Fact will roll across, so Wicked will probably come across with it, and then it's a matter of which Waller horse does what. Pecuniary Interest and Attorney with the two that I thought were quite interesting. Attorney's going to be out the back, so the slow pace wouldn't be ideal, so it again depends on what the Waller team decide to do here, whether they put any tempo into the race or not. But I thought Attorney was ready to go, and ironically, it's not from the Waller stable. It's from Matthew Smith stable, but it was just the one out of that Randwick run last start. Randwick race. Last start. It's back here on the inside. So its problem is it's got no early speed, even though it was taken back a bit here. It really struggles to hold a spot. So no excuses in the run for this horse. Widest runner. So this is order again in here. Korea Dearest, all these horses clashing tomorrow. Fun fact that led and dropped out. It was just wider was harder to make ground here, and I thought this horse weren't as good as anything, and is a big price here. It's order again. It's a bit of a nightmare, held up, but didn't really dash through the line. I just thought this guy was forced to make a long wide run, widest runner. Creator is similar, but a lot shorter here. I think it's $4 and Attorney's $10. Neither of them are going to be in a striking position, you wouldn't imagine, in the run. Creator is drawn awkwardly again. He's got that racing pattern. The other horse that is interesting is Mubarak. Finally set up nicely. Draws a soft gate, can settle right behind the speed here, and has got a turn of foot. Whether it runs a strong 2,000 or not, we'll probably find out tomorrow. But at $10, I think it's the other one that's quite interesting in the race. I can't really find order again at $6.50, and I can't find Cruderis at $4 in many races. So you win $7. Had its chance there last start and didn't finish off. The top one is a query. Mustajir, 278 days off, 87 days off, and first up here. Obviously got class on its side compared to most of these horses, and that's why the weights are fairly compressed, but not an easy thing to do, win off that sort of a break. And we did talk about pecuniary interest before. Dominant in two very ordinary races, but obviously the horse is flying. Whether it jumps or not here is probably imperative to its chances. Way up in grade. It does drop 5.5 kilos, and it is flying. But hard to line up against these compared to what it's been coming out of recently. I know one horse did come out and win midweek out of its last start, but still hasn't been tested anywhere near this level. Mubarak is at $10 the value, and Attorney at around the same price of the two I can entertain here in the January Cup. The last is a bit of a quandary. Sorry, race 9. This horse Zagallo. So you got these two horses coming out of the same race. One's 390 Zagallo, one's 360 Niffler. If you watch them in isolation, you wouldn't imagine that Zagallo could possibly be longer than Niffler next start. So Niffler's in the Whopper colours, the blue, the dark blue, is it purple and white, and Zagallo is the one which we'll show early. It does jump up on speed here, so nearly leads, and look where it ends up. Sort of back here, pulling, gets pulling, keeps going back, keeps going back, keeps going back. Keeps going back and pulling, keeps going back. Now it's in the middle, now it's last. Close enough to it. One from the outside doesn't really get clear running. It's still on heels of this horse, so it has to push out. This is Niffler here in clear running the whole way. And Zagallo finally gets out, picks up, and closes within a half a length of it, 3/4 of a length, and through the line at least as strong as it. So on that, I don't know how Niffler can beat Zagallo home, but then you get the same riders, which is a little bit of a surprise, honestly. So Niffler gets the really nice draw again, and Zagallo gets the visitors draw, sort of 3/4 of the way out. Do they chance their hand and roll forward on Zagallo this time? I'm not sure. It certainly, if it was mine, you've got nothing sweet about me drawn directly inside Zagallo. Canasta will probably come out. And then there's no real other speed. You've got Rousseau, who's the stablemate to Zagallo, that can go up on speed. But if it's mine, Zagallo, it's going straight forward outside the leader, and it's nearly unbeatable, I think, off that last run. And you definitely can't back Niffler to beat it off that last run. So I think surely it's ridden more forward tomorrow after it was taken out there. It was only second up last start. It's third up. It's now had the run at the distance, and the way things happened last time, surely they're just a little bit more positive early out of the gates here. Niffler will run well, really honest horse, consistent horse. Only had 4 starts, is it, for 3 wins, and probably should have won last start, even though I think it would have been a little bit flattered, a little bit more positive ride early in the straight. It just pinches a bit of a break there and probably hard to beat. The other runners that are going really well, High Court, probably a little bit flattered the other day, had the right run at Canterbury, but really put them away there. Hard fit and gets the same run again here, so I can't knock it. And this King Rattel, certainly going well, and I just thought it was worth mentioning at $34. It's had no luck at all, both runs back, and draws a horrible gate and be probably in a horrible position again or out the back, but at $34 is worth mentioning. And they're the clear ones. Tyra was a weird one last up, very plain, off a decent run first up, but up to this grade I've got to be against it, and I'm against Nothing Sweet About Me here, even though it looks like it's going to get the softest of leads again. I would assume that whatever's camped right behind it will get past it this time in what is a harder race than what it faced last time. So is a Garlo desperately hard to beat, especially if you get a change of tactics to be ridden more positively, which you would have to think is a big chance in a race that just looks ideal for it to do that, when you've got probably stablemates that can be kind to it to early in the race, like Niffler and what was the other horse I mentioned? Rousseau, who can be kind to it early in the race if need be. Last race, Tycoonist finds itself, there's no doubt about that. Very good win when ridden cold last start, and overcame what was a bit of a average tempo there. Well, they went okay, it was just average tempo, but wasn't easy to come back from where it was last start, and ran a really solid race. Only second up there, up in distance, so good. A lot of ticks in the Tycoonist box. Draws to set a little bit closer this time. Again, not a race with any speed. Invinciano looks to lead. Does True Detective come across or not? I'm not sure, with the blinkers off. Either way, I think Rangers does punch forward and probably tries to sit outside Invinciano's been ridden like a man possessed. It's 2 trials, so I can't see it doing anything other than going forward over this sort of trip. And I thought it was actually a bit of value at $14 or whatever it is early. Its trials were good, and obviously it looks like the stable's got it ready to go first up. Tycoonist short, what is it, $3? That's short enough for this sort of horse, I think. Rangers, again, a very honest horse that should get the right run on speed. And $11, I can't knock it. True Detective's not absolutely hopeless at $15. If it lobs outside the leader first up, it's got ability. And if it relaxes there nicely with the blinkers off. Matawa Takbi's trialling well enough to run well. I thought Poetic Charmer was short enough. Matawa Takbi, $14 okay. True Detective, $15 okay. It's a pretty open race if Tycoonist doesn't win. And that stable's always hard to trust, to reproduce their form over and over again. But the horses that get the right run to me are Invinciano, Rangers, and Tycoonist. And then you've got wild cards there in Matawa Takbi, True Detective, that can run nice races. Even Sharp Hustler's not 1,000,000 to 1 down the bottom. He's going better than his form suggests. So Tycoonist or an open race in the last, not great confidences, especially to take short odds there. So interesting race. I'll come back in the morning with an update, just because there could be so many scratchings, jockey changes, all sorts of things. They're my early thoughts on Rosehill for 8th of January. Thanks, guys.